Yeah, and these are, a lot of times the devil's in the details, and that's why it's really wonderful to have experts like you on to help us understand these important distinctions, because you can, just like as mentioned earlier with this agave, you think you're doing something healthy, but the reality is you're not. So it takes more than intentions. It really does take good intentions, rather. It takes a little bit of homework to really do your due diligence to make sure that you're seeking, have identified and taking a product that really is meeting your expectations and going to give you the benefit that you or your family is seeking to achieve.
And also, even the media will distort things. We were talking the other day, when I was talking to Steve the other day, we were talking about the study that was reported, that was all over the news, that antioxidants don't work. They actually make it worse. They actually increase mortality rates. Well, that study was done on, they generalized and said antioxidant supplements, but it was done on vitamin A, C, and E. They weren't talking about all these other antioxidants that are on the market. But what did the media say? The media made it sound like antioxidants are not good for you anymore. It's all hype. But this study was actually a meta-analysis, is a review of only supplementation, high supplementation with A, C, and E. So even reading, newspaper articles, you have to read them with a little bit of
sure.
Grain of salt. Take it with a grain of salt.
Just even with those, a lot of times the media is very common for them to classify a vitamin A supplement as synthetic beta carotene, and that they're going to think that that's the real thing. Now, obviously, it's a lot different than natural vitamin A, but even natural vitamin A, I've developed some concerns about that in high doses because of its influence on vitamin D levels, and so it may impair the ability of vitamin D to work really well, and we're all familiar with the benefits of vitamin D. But it's just easy to distort those components, and then
yep.
Even with vitamin E, I mean, if you take a large dose of alpha tocopherol as opposed to the mixed tocopherols, I mean, you're going to get different changes.
Yes.
So and these meta-analyses rarely look at those details. They just blindly
no
everything together.
And they talk correlations rather than causative effect. There's a correlation, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's causative.
Right. So you have to be careful, and that's why publications like Mercola.com exist to help people weed through the craziness, because the media really, in many cases, is there, of course, to get their stories read, and they'll tend to have some highlight some I guess headlines that are somewhat shocking to get readership. But then additionally, they can be under the control of many of these large food industry giants and large corporations that have been able to, in many ways, similar to the drug companies, manipulate the system to get their information out there to spread the message they want to be heard, so that they can increase their bottom line sales.
That's right.
So,
better educated you are as a consumer, better choices.
And that's been the intention of this interview. And I think we're pretty much answered most of the questions I had. And I just wondered if you had any closing comments you wanted to provide our listeners to with respect to antioxidants.
Well, I guess I just also again state that there's a lot of antioxidants out there, and they're all going to claim they are the best, the only one you should be taking. But the truth is, you should have a varied antioxidant intake from all different sources. You should look for antioxidants that are from fruit and vegetables. If you're not getting, you don't have a good diet, you should look for antioxidants that like CoQ10 that are necessary, because that CoQ10 is called ubiquinol because it's ubiquitous. It's in every single cell. You need to have some CoQ10, and if you don't eat the right foods, CoQ10 is found in only a few foods, and you need to make sure you're getting it. So I recommend a broad mix, just like the physician who says eat a varied diet.
Yeah, and personally, just to give you my viewpoint on it, is I'm not a really huge supplement person, but in fact, when I first started the newsletter, I was really opposed to anyone taking supplements for the most part. But then, of course, we mature in our health journey and we come to these understandings, and now I've found myself consuming more and more of them just as an insurance. And
it's insurance, that's right.
Yeah, and I've come to the conclusion that it's really, if you can afford it, it's hard to have anyone not be taking ubiquinol. And you know, sometimes it's called coenzyme Q10, but there's a significant difference. As I mentioned earlier, it's the reduced version, and really I think most people beyond 40 or so, or 35 should be on it. And really there's no harm for anyone younger taking it, and especially if they have this genetic mutation you mentioned, but it really is the ubiquinol that's key. And then making sure that you're eating lots of good vegetables. Now, if you're on a statin, it's a no-brainer. I mean, it's almost criminal negligent malpractice to be on
Yes.
A statin drug and not be on ubiquinol. I mean, that's just reprehensibly criminal to not do that. For a physician or healthcare professional or even a nutritional consultant to not be aware of that is really, really serious a problem. So it's one of my new ones. And there's some interesting studies with it, too, really supporting some very powerful anti-aging effects in animal studies. I mean, really profound mouse studies that are just shocking, and we hope to provide some of those in the near future.
Yeah, I mean, there was a recent study showing CoQ10. This was an in vivo clinical trial, so this was on people, helping with periodontal disease and gingivitis.
Sure.
I mean, that's a disease of aging. You know, you get older and those things, that happens. And there was a recent study that showed huge improvement in actual reversal of periodontal disease if you both ingest CoQ10 and brush your teeth with it, with toothpaste that have CoQ10. So it's amazing what they're finding CoQ10 good for.
Yeah, and one of the other components that I've been recently made aware of is that it's actually the ratio of ubiquinol to CoQ10, you know, the reduced to oxidized version in your body that may be a very powerful biological marker of aging.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So, you know, that's again another strong reason to consider taking the reduced version of ubiquinol instead of CoQ10. So, unfortunately, most people are getting that, and they're really becoming aware of it. But interestingly, you know, this version of ubiquinol, the reduced version, has only been available for a few years. I mean, you know, you could not get it last century. It was unavailable. It took them 10 years to develop it, this Japanese company, and they did a lot of studies on it, but it's, you know, and they've got multiple patents, so there's only really one company providing it, but it's amazing antioxidant. So I think that covers it up. I want to thank you so much for joining us and enlightening our listeners as to the importance of really doing the specific detailed analysis of comparison with the ORAC value, because it's a really good tool. You just have to be careful on how it's utilized. So thank you.
Thank you for having me.